When guys reach their 30s, this is where life really starts to take over. Things like starting a family, improving your career, chasing your personal goals start to take up the majority of your time. And it can be really hard to make fitness a priority at this stage because there's just a lot of things pulling you in a lot of different directions. So when we work with clients like my client Mike here, who in his 50s actually decided he wanted to get shredded and not fall into the trap of settling for average or even below average as he got older, one of the key things we do is simplify your habits and routines. We don't want you following tons and tons of different strategies thinking that more is better. In fact, we want to double down on the basics. In today's video, I'm going to talk through some simple habits that you should be following if fitness is your priority as you get into your 30s and even beyond. We actually have to learn how to generate motivation, how to generate discipline and consistency around our habits and routines. And one of the biggest things I see guys face is this inability to do the things they don't want to do. And so that's why I created what's called the 10-minute rule. I actually put a whole video on the 10-minute rule. You can check it out. It's probably up here on the screen. But this 10-minute rule is really the starting place for developing habits and routines. It's simply doing what you know you need to do when you don't feel like doing it, just for a small amount of time. In this case, 10 minutes. So our first habit is following and living by this 10-minute rule. But let's just say, for example, that you don't want to go work out. My client Mike struggled with this early on in the phase that we started with because he hadn't had a consistent routine. He hadn't been going to the gym consistently. He hadn't been doing things that are going to help him get lean consistently. So all I told him was this: when you don't feel like going to the gym, just go work out for 10 minutes. Do it for 10 minutes, force yourself, do anything in your power to do it for 10 minutes. And then check in with yourself 10 minutes in. If you feel like continuing on, keep going. If you don't, great. You can go home, you can go do whatever you need to do, knowing that you stuck to your commitment. But chances are, and he found this to be true, you're gonna wanna keep doing it once you pass that 10-minute mark. You're gonna realize this isn't that hard of a task. I can actually do this. I feel better for actually getting started. And now I want to go and finish the whole entire thing. We call this a 10-minute rule, and literally, like I said, can be applied to anything. I use it all the time in my day-to-day life, even with things like taking care of my kids, where I'm tired at the end of the day, work has done a lot to my energy, and now I want to just kick my feet up and relax. My kids want to go outside and play football in the backyard. Guess what? 10 minutes. But the 10-minute rule applies to everything that you need to be doing inside of your habits and routines. This also reminds me of another client that I had. His name was Joel. I actually did a whole video on his transformation. You can check it out here, or you can find it on my channel. Joel came to me with a lot of nutrition issues. And one of the main habits and routines that we started with was making protein the star of the show. Nutrition can seem really complex, especially, like I said, with everything coming at you in your 30s and beyond. Thinking about how you should be approaching your meals is something that a lot of guys struggle with. So if we're just starting from point A and saying, where do we begin with this whole nutrition thing? I wouldn't even tell you that you have to immediately jump into tracking calories. When we're just talking about simple habits, looking at your plate and saying to yourself, is protein the star of this meal? Do I have mostly protein sources on my plate? So what is protein? Well, let's start with the basics, which is meats, right? Things like chicken, beef, steak, turkey. These things are high in protein and mostly 100% protein, a little bit of fat built into things like steak and ground beef and chicken, but most of the makeup of that food is protein. Then you have your seafood. You have like fish, which is like salmon, cod, and then you have shrimp. You can even have some dairy products in there like Greek yogurt and raw milk if that's your thing, because raw milk is actually really healthy and has a lot of protein. Then we have like supplemental sources of protein, like protein powder or protein bars. You can even dabble in things like low fat to non-fat cheese, which have a lot of protein. And then of course you have eggs, which are some of the most healthiest foods on the planet. Protein should make up the majority of your meal moving forward. If this is something you want to keep simple for the rest of your life, just focus on getting enough protein inside your meal. My client Joel got ripped following a strategy like this, where the majority of our focus was just on getting more protein in his diet. And that alleviated some of the hunger he was experiencing, kept his appetite at bay, and made fat loss easy, especially with someone like himself who traveled a lot for work and couldn't always eat the same things at home every day. He needed to keep things simple, and protein was where we focused his efforts. Which leads me to habit number 3, which is we need to start paying attention to when we are not hungry and when we are the most hungry. And I would suggest skipping meals when you're not hungry, and making this a daily recurrence if you're just simply not hungry at certain periods of the day. For me, and I've done this for the better part of the past decade, I just don't eat breakfast. I don't wake up and eat anything, and my first meal rarely ever happens before noon. This is because I'm just not hungry in the morning. I have a lot of other things I need to tackle, including my workout. And yes, I do train fasted. I feel better actually working out on an empty stomach. Once again, we're not after 100% perfect here. We're after what is going to be sustainable and simple that will lead to much bigger results. And for me, that's just skipping breakfast. I fast until middle of the day, and sometimes even longer than that. There are even days where I don't eat at all because I'm just not hungry. This makes staying lean a whole heck of a lot easier, and it teaches you once again that you are in control of your appetite. You decide when you eat, not your hunger, not your random cravings, you. So for you, this might be a late evening meal where you're just eating because everyone else is doing it. And skipping that meal will then save calories for meals when you are actually hungry. For me, early evening dinner is when I'm the most hungry. It's the end of the day. I've done a lot of work for the day. It's time to relax, enjoy some food with the family, and eat something that is going to give me some satisfaction along with some nutrients that I need for the day. So my largest meal of the day happens around 6 or 7 o'clock at night. And that's when I just like to have the majority of my calories. Oftentimes we get caught up in tracking things that we don't really need to focus on tracking. It could be things like our heart rate or how many calories we burn during a workout. So one of the simple habits I suggest you implement is just to track your main lifts. If you're working out consistently, you should be following a relatively progressive program that keeps a lot of the same exercises in your rotation to where it becomes really simple to track your lifts, meaning how much weight you're lifting for how many reps and how many sets. You don't need to necessarily track every single lift. It might be a great idea if you're someone like myself who loves data, loves to see progress, loves to find any opportunity to celebrate a win. But for you, it might just be the first exercise in your program, the one that is the most functional, that is the most compound, meaning things like bench press, pull-ups, pull-downs, rows, squats, Romanian deadlifts. These exercises use more than one muscle group. In fact, they usually use 3 or 4 muscle groups. Thus, your strength is probably gonna be at its highest during these movements. I had a client come to me, his name was Tony. I do believe I have another video on Tony somewhere in my library here that you can go check out. It was made a while ago, but his progress is very inspiring. His transformation story was pretty epic. And he's actually continued to stay in shape. And I asked him the other day, what is your biggest secret? What's like the #1 habit you would tell people that you should do every single day to stay lean? He was really, really clear on this habit. And it was simply this: go for a daily walk. And I thought to myself, it's funny because this is something that I kind of bypass when I'm going over the importance of things. I tell my clients, track your total steps throughout the day, right? Hit 10,000 steps a day. That's gonna be a really good target just to keep your activity where it needs to be. But how do you get those steps? And he told me, listen, a daily walk every single day for 30 minutes was something I've done for years and years now. And it's helped me hit that 10,000 mark like clockwork. I never have to worry about my activity because I know if I get that walk in, the rest of my day is gonna help me add up my steps to 10,000. And he's been able to stay at 10% body fat for years now, because I worked with him, I believe, 5 years ago. And he's now sending me pictures looking better and leaner than he was even when we worked together. And when he tells me his #1 habit is simply walking throughout the day, I take notice of that. And so for you, if you're out there wondering, like, what kind of cardio should I do? What kind of bike should I get? Or what kind of Peloton should I invest in? Listen, just go for a walk to start. Make it a habit to find a time frame in your day that you know you can knock out a 20 to 30 minute walk every single day. Maybe that's after lunch, maybe that's in the evening with your wife and kids, or maybe it's in the morning when you first wake up. Either way, make it a habit, keep it simple, and hit your daily walk day in and day out. And I promise you, staying lean and fit will become second nature. Now, my last tip is for you high performers out there who not only want to stay lean, but you want to see improvement in all areas of life. And that is this: to review your vision. And I don't just mean sit there and think about what you want. You need to write this down in detail. Write it down by hand, type it out, post it on your mirror so that in the morning, when you're brushing your teeth and flossing and getting ready for the day, you take a look at it for just a minute and you can literally read through it to help keep programming your mind and thoughts to direct you closer to these goals. Listen, we all want to get progress. We all want to see wins. We all want to get better, especially with our fitness. I mean, if you're watching this video right now, you're clearly interested in self-betterment. But the problem is we oftentimes forget where we're going. And so if you don't understand your vision, what you're actually trying to become, you can quickly get lost along this journey and start to feel frustrated not knowing where you are. So take a minute or two every day and just review your vision. You can map out your short-term goals for the year on a piece of paper, and then write down what you want your life to be. What kind of money do you want to make? What do you want your body to look like? All these things are part of your vision. Write them down, review them daily for a couple minutes, and it will start to really pay off. You'll start to see you get closer and closer and closer and ultimately reach these goals. And then guess what? You'll have another vision for the next chapter of your life that you can start aiming for. These are some of the best and most simple habits I can give you to stay fit in your 30s and beyond. I actually put together another video with some underrated habits and systems that I found to be the most helpful, that have helped keep me lean, healthy, and also really energized in my 30s and beyond. You can check that one out here. It's literally called the most 5 underrated fat loss habits that I've personally done. So go check that one out next. That'll be a really good next step for you. My name is Josiah Novak. I run a coaching company called thetruetransformation.com. Our mission is to help you not only get lean, look your absolute best, and improve your health and fitness, but use fitness as a tool to improve all areas of your life. We have a quote that we live by. It's life moves fast, make it count. So if you found this video helpful, make it count by clicking the like button and subscribing to the channel. And leave a comment. Let me know which habit that I just went through was the most impactful. And I'll make another video very, very soon on more. Talk to you on the next one. Life moves fast, make it count. Peace.